remember when I drew the rolling ball curve? So the ball rolls down this little trench, whatever, and then it rolls back up. And I said that if this is faith in God, or just to use more technical terms, if this is theism, then this is atheism, and this would be what? And this is agnosticism, right? So I basically said that both theism and atheism are matters of faith. So when you debate atheists, you're debating someone who just follows another religion, that's all. This is an ideology. It's not a practical matter. Practical matters will be right here in the agnosticism realm. That we can respect, all right? Now, agnostics would say in order for any form of knowledge to be acquired, it has to be experienced by sense perception. Nothing exists innately in the human being except what they see and what they experience. So perhaps it's possible, they would say, that the acquisition of the knowledge of God happens through a similar type of culturation. Maybe because you go to the mosque and you go to the church and you've been fed the idea of God your entire life. That's why they acquire the idea of God. And this type of knowledge is called a posteriori knowledge. A posteriori from post, after exposure, right? That's what many agnostics would say. Well, I don't know of any other knowledge except knowledge that is acquired a posteriori, meaning through our sense perception. Seen it, heard about it, read about it, touched it, that's why I have it, okay? But in order for for us, if I were to say that I am a person of faith, I need to believe that the knowledge of God exists innately in the human being. By the way, are you guys getting warm? Should we turn on the AC? Yusuf? Thank you. In order for me to, as a man of faith, I cannot accept the idea that God exists through knowledge that is acquired through sense perception. So I have to say that faith as a concept entails that God exists innately in the human being, meaning the knowledge of God is not a posteriori knowledge. Rather, it would be what? A priori. Prior. A priori knowledge, it's knowledge that is prior to experience, prior to sense perception. Okay? There's great philosophers that champion both. Descartes, for example. Immanuel Kant. Both of them had very strong arguments for a priori knowledge, and I'll talk about some of them. Plato. Incredible arguments for a priori knowledge. A posteriori knowledge was established or argued for by John Locke, David Hume, and other more modern philosophers. So let's establish that first. Can we philosophically argue that some forms of knowledge exist in the human being without any type of exposure, without any exposure to the sense perceptions? Okay, and if someone says yes, you have to tell me how. Say again?
Instinct. Math.
Instinct is not knowledge. Instinct is a tool. Math? So Immanuel Kant actually bases his a priori arguments on the fact that knowledge of mathematics exists innately in people. All right? You don't need to see in nature that 5 plus 1 equals 6. He says that this is something that just occurs in the mind. I don't need to see it happen in nature. So if you take someone and put them in a room for 5 years from the moment they were born until they reached 5, the age of 5, and then you go and ask that person, If you add one object to 5 objects, that person would say 6. So Immanuel Kant says this is a priori knowledge because it does not need to be acquired. And once we breach the determinism of a posteriori knowledge, then that leaves room for God. Okay? See, all we're trying to do here is just loosen up the bolts. That's all we're doing. We're trying to loosen the bolts of a posteriori knowledge. That's all we're trying to do. Plato came up with even more powerful arguments. So Kant talked about math. Plato talked about geometry. Does the perfect circle exist in nature?
And yet you can.
Does the perfect circle exist in nature? Why not? Why can't we find a perfect circle in nature? Because what is the definition of a perfect circle? Okay, let's say that the radius is right here. What is this segment called? This is the radius, right? And what is that segment right here? This is still R. What is this third one? It's Mercedes. Mercedes does exist. Oh my God. All right. Is there a possible way for us to ensure that this segment is 100% the same length as that segment? In nature, can we do that? We cannot do that because one of them is going to be infinitesimally either smaller or shorter or longer than the other one. So to find 2 or more radii that are of the same exact length is a mathematical impossibility. It cannot happen in nature. But does it happen in the mind?
Yeah.
Of course, we have a perfect idea of the abstract circle. We use it in geometrical equations. We use it in design. It's in our minds, even though it doesn't exist out in nature. Plato would say, where did we get it then?
Yeah, I've heard that a lot. Like, I actually don't really understand.
Mm-hmm.
What, like, I don't get it. I don't. What are they? I mean, like in nature, as in it, like the shape of something that just. I don't understand that.
Yeah. So in nature, as in either it exists in the things in nature, like have you ever seen an object that is a perfect circle? You know that can pass that we even the objects that we build, can they be perfect geometrical shapes? What is the straight line? So let's say this is 90 degrees, right? And I'm trying to build a line that is perfectly perpendicular to the ground. Is there any human tool that can allow me to do that with 100% precision? There's no way. It's mathematically impossible because, again, every time I try to move it to the other way in order to make it 100% perpendicular, I will go infinitesimally to the left. And then I will have to go infinitesimally to the right. There's no way. There is a way in the mind to do that, but not in the real world, because there's an infinite number of ways, and it still won't be perfectly perpendicular. But as math, the perpendicular, the 90 degrees, does exist in the abstract, in the human mind.
The value of G is not constant everywhere, it changes. The G value
The
should be made
big G or small g?
small G. The gravity.
Yeah, I mean there is.
It's not the same everywhere.
It's not 9.8 precisely, definitely. Okay. What other forms of knowledge exist innately?
Awareness of the self.
Say again?
Awareness of the self. Consciousness.
Self-consciousness. They would say self-consciousness is a priori knowledge, even though some of the a posteriori people will say, well, you're not born with it, but it takes you a little time. Your parents will make you have that type of self-consciousness because they keep calling you Kamran. And then gradually you start believing it. Oh my God, I am actually Kamran. So they might argue a little bit with that. But here's the other thing. I think this last one, in my opinion, is the killer. That's what seals the deal. The knowledge of logic. Logic cannot be a posteriori, because logic is not built anywhere in the environment around us. Logic is a mere intellectual process. It only exists here.
And it's too universal.
Hmm?
Too universal.
It's 100% universal. Okay? Again, all we're doing, loosening the bolts a little bit. Okay? New York is a coastal city. Is that a priori or a posteriori knowledge? It's posteriori. Just making sure that you guys get the difference here. What about the concept of infinity? Is that a priori or a posteriori?
A priori.
It's a priori, because there is no infinite values in nature. Everything can be counted with the right tools if you have enough time. Okay, it'll be thousands of years before you count every single little pebble in the universe, but it's still a finite value. Okay? Yet the concept of infinity does exist in the mind, it exists in mathematics, and we actually use it quite a bit.